Howdy, welcome to week 3 with Pistol. Most of week 3, honestly, of course, was dealing with the abscess. It went pretty textbook. We just kept wrapping it and soaking it, and it ended up coming out the side of his hoof near the coronary band approximately, I think Thursday was the day that it went through, so we're still soaking, we're still dealing with that just to make sure it stays nice and clean and it heals. For the most part, he's about 80% sound, and the 20% is just like a small lameness. Nothing too major. I do have some pictures of that, and so I'll be sending that too. So as soon as he seemed comfortable, we gave him another day. Last week was a lot of dealing with, all of the handling that comes with having his foot packed and everything, and so we did get to work through quite a bit of his anxiety with that, and also just some movement things with getting him to cross over. So this is the first ridden session that we've had since then. I believe this was Tuesday this week, so we're combining a little bit of week 3 and week 4. Because again, the highlight I have on week 3 is just pictures of his foot. And so here I have one of my helpers on him. Again, he's really good for mounting. He was a little bit jumpy when you were jumping next to him originally, and so it seems like we've gotten most of that out of the way. We do have considerable work still left to do with the lateral flexion, which leads to being soft in the face, soft in the bridle, and increased steering. And so as we saw on our other ridden session, we do have to work on that a lot. We also have to work on what's called destination addiction, where he wants to go to certain areas, whether it's the mares or a gate or anything else like that. And we've been working on that this week as well, in week 4. So he seems fine working under saddle with the lateral work as well as on the ground. And in fact, in some ways, he's better about it in the saddle. So here I'm showing her what to do with the lateral flexion. Our goal is basically you raise the reins and he's going to give to it. So there he gave to it, but he didn't stand still. And so we want to make sure he understands that when we ask him to bend, it doesn't mean move. We just want him to just flex and be supple on that side. So again, we're just looking for that. I have this sped up because it's not terribly interesting to watch in real time. There's several things that we're looking for. We want to see him crossing his legs under his body when we do start moving him. But the main thing is when we lift those reins that he actually gives to it. He is pretty consistent about wanting to lean on the bit. So when you pick it up, and that's what he's doing right here, is we've picked it up and he's just leaning on it and kind of taking a nap. So I have her bumping the reins a little bit just to get him thinking in the correct direction. But a lot of this is just waiting it out and the repetitions that it takes for him to start to understand he needs to yield to the bit. We are just using a very, very simple double jointed snaffle. It's pretty thick. I could probably use a twisted wire to get a better reaction with that, but I feel like that's what he's had before, and so I want to make sure he's soft no matter what he has in his mouth. So yeah, so we're working on that, and believe it or not, this is actually sped up, this section here. He's just really waiting it out that strongly on the bit. So we're waiting it out in response. So there he finally gives, so she pets him. And of course we have to go back to work. Again, this ends up affecting him wanting to turn. If you remember from the riding section, he did put his head up and he just really tried to avoid the bit. And this is where it starts as far as the fixing goes. And so here I'm prepping her for the next part, which is to flex him and add leg. This is our first session where we've used a whip on him. It's just a dressage whip with kind of a flapper on the end. It's nothing special, but it's just a way of communicating to him that we would like him to move off with the slightest of calf pressure. When we rode him in the previous video, we did not have a stick with us, and so I ended up having to cue him from the ground. And so what we're trying to do is we pick up the rein, ask him to flex. We gently put calf pressure on him. We don't want to use too much. We don't want to kick him because we don't want that to be our long-term goal. And then we just follow it up with the whip. We start out with just a touch of the whip, and then a tap, and then a stronger tap, and then a stronger tap until we get the response we want. The response that we're looking for is that he would calmly cross over like that, and then we can resist it. Here I'm showing her that she needs to keep him bent in order to encourage that crossing over. There he went behind. And so we're going to wait for her to try it again. And you do this until you feel comfortable with them. This is a way of controlling them. You know, if he wanted to buck or do anything else like that, we would have control of his head, and so that would be an easy way to remedy that. We are trying to put a conditioned reinforcer on here, where basically when we do this, he should relax into it. And that's part of him, you know, playing around with it when he wants to lean on the bit. And so most of what we're trying to do here is balance the horses up. We want them to flex. If we just flex with no calf pressure, then that means stand still or stop if you're at a higher gait and you're coming down. And then we want to put our leg on and have them moving. In a minute here, he's going to get a little bit antsy, and he just really wants to go. And so when they want to go, we try and get them to stay in one place. Here he's fussing with the bit a little bit because we're flexing to the left now. And then we're just trying to balance them up. If they want to go, we want them to stop. If they want to stop, we want them to go. We're trying to do that because we're trying to get to a point where they're just waiting for our instruction. We don't want them anticipating anything. We don't want to get in trouble with that. So that's what we're working on here. And here, again, he's fussy with his face. We saw that again. This is that same side. He had issues when we were trying to ask for the canter going to the left, where he would run out to the right. This head flipping right here, this is the start of that. And basically where he drops that outside shoulder and just runs off to the side. So we're addressing that right here. We're adding it on. You can tell his legs, he wants to go side to side, so we ask him to keep going until he crosses over. And he gets a little bit stuck and he's flipping his head, but we finally get to a decent stopping point. Basically, he ended up relaxing with his face more than crossing over in the back. So here I'm explaining to her how to work out of the circle, which is we're going to flex him, we're going to apply our leg, and then once he gets going, we're going to release him forward. Again, Pistol isn't by default a horse that really wants to go forward, and so this is a little bit difficult. Here he ends up kind of backing up off screen. He's still backing up. And so again, we're looking for a point where we can release him going forward. We're trying to get his brain thinking, go forward. And so he finally makes a choice, but he's fussy about it with his face. So we're going to ask him to stop. Here I'm pointing out, you know, probably should have done an extra step so he's crossing over. And then that was a little bit better. So now I'm going to start walking with them. Someone's going to come over and adjust the camera and start following us around because I know that we're off camera at this point. So just bear with me in a minute. We're basically walking down the long side, and I'm explaining to her that anytime he gets distracted, he spooks, he is off of you mentally for any possible reason, we're just going to flex him to a stop and make sure that we get that attention back on. The other thing too is we don't tend to want them to just keep walking for 10, 20, 30 steps until their problem. What we want to do is make sure that we prevent the problems and teach the horses a way of re-engaging with us and figuring out how to say that they're worried about something instead of taking matters into their own hand. So we worked a little bit on that offside there that you couldn't see, and so here what we're doing is we're working on just walking and pulling him up. That one was pretty good. He could have crossed over better in the back, of course. Again, that's our ongoing theme, but he is getting better. Here he gets a little bit fussy because, again, we're trying to ask him to spiral out of that. And we're just waiting for him to relax into it so we can move on. So again, step 1 is making sure that they'll stay stopped for us. Step 2 is making sure that they will go when we ask them to. And then step 3 is spiraling them out into a forward motion. So that's what we're trying to do here, is the spiraling out to the forward motion. Again, we're going to walk down this side. I guess this is where I reminded someone to move the camera for me. So we're going down, we're spiraling, checking out things. Once we've got them where we can reliably stop them and we can reliably get them to go, the next thing that we're going to do, we do want to start being able to steer them, but it's really important that we find anything that they're, again, destination addicted to. In Pistol's case, it's the horses on the far side, which is what we're dealing with right here, and it's usually the gate that's kind of behind the camera right now. This corner he tends to get stuck in a lot. There's usually a mare over there, and so he likes to hang out with them. Here he's fussing with us. You can kind of see his head tossing up and down, and so we're just working him through that. And then we're going to walk out of it. So she's asking with her leg. We did have to follow it up with the whip right there, which is why he's a little bit more forward there, and that's fine. So now we're walking back up to the main part of the arena. Again, at this point, we're not really asking for any direction. He does like to kind of walk into the fence right here. I feel like whoever trained him before did extensive, it's called follow the fence exercise. And so what we're trying to do here is get him off of the fence. We'll eventually take him back to the fence, but right now it's really hard for him to leave the fence most of the time. We did a training session last night where basically he was just on the fence the entire time. But we did get to address a lot of the destination addiction, and we'll talk about that more in another video. So again, here she's walking. She's doing an opening hand on the inside to invite him to go in that way, and that starts to help with the steering a little bit. So he's a lot more relaxed in this. He's got a nice, comfortable walk going on. His head is down, so we're very happy with that. And again, she's just working on the steering. So we don't keep constant pressure on it. We just open the hand. Once they get onto the line that we're trying to ride on, we put the hand back down. If they get off the line, we raise our hand again and invite them back onto the line. This teaches them how to go off of your seat sooner. It doesn't matter whether they're trying to end up as an English horse or a Western horse, a pleasure horse or a show horse. Being able to work off the seat is one of the most important things that we try and teach the horses. That way, if you, for some reason, aren't using the reins, whether it's for like a reining pattern or you're using it for cutting cattle, you can just use your seat. Again, she's doing a couple of sessions here of bringing him to a stop. We try and stop him in the middle of the arena so he doesn't really favor any one particular corner. And then this is usually where we get off. So we let him think about it for a moment or two, wait for him to lick and chew, and then we're going to get off. So moving forward here, we're still monitoring the abscess foot. Again, the abscess seems to be out of there. It's done really well. We're still soaking and keeping it clean just as a preventative measure. He's happy to go back to work, and he is learning very, very quickly. We did do a little bit of canter yesterday, just a tiny bit to show him the cue to go up into the canter and back down. But again, I don't feel comfortable that his hoof wall is ready for that at this point. But he is in work. We've ridden him about 3 times this week, so we're starting to make some nice progress. The lateral flexion thing is going to be the biggest obstacle moving forward, and then the responsiveness in an appropriate way. Basically, if we want him to go forward, then he goes forward. Here's kind of an issue where he wants to pull back on the lead rope instead of following us, so we just kind of move him quickly and show him the right answer. So again, moving forward, the issues are just, when should he go? When should he stay put? Trusting us is a little bit of an issue, but he's getting a lot better. Being able to catch him in the paddock kind of comes and goes, but he is overall getting better about that. Again, he wasn't terrible about it, but he is getting better. And that's pretty much it. So we're hoping to finish up this week with doing some more walk and trot, getting him to flex, getting him more supple, and then we'll go from there. So at this point, we can talk about a second month where what I would like to focus on, of course, is continuing to do the walk, trot, and canter. And ideally what we would like to do is, start riding him around the arena competently, getting advanced steering exercises done, and getting him so he's a more functional ranch horse for you. If you'd like to take him home at this point, just let us know and we can arrange to get him back out there. But either way, he's been a great horse to have. The abscess thing is a little bit unfortunate, but just something that happens, especially this time of the year. We actually had 2 other horses that had abscesses, and they're all on the same page. There's been a lot of soaking going on right now. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you.